It's 10 a.m. right here in Lagos, Nigeria. Good morning, good evening, wherever in the world you're watching from. It's Business Morning live from Channels HQ. I'm Ladi Williams. First off, let's take a look at what's in the news now. We'll see Nigeria's money supply, that's the total amount of money available in the economy, increased to 64.3 trillion naira in June. And that's according to the latest report from the central bank. The fresh data which is contained in the CBN's Money and Credit Statistics page on its website, is the highest amount of currency in circulation ever recorded in the country when compared to 55.5 trillion naira level recorded in May. Meanwhile, economic analysts have raised concerns that the expansion in money supply could further drive inflation higher and reduce purchasing power of Nigerians. To the global oil market now, we see global oil prices retreated today after opening higher at the start of Asian trade. U.S. markets weighed U.S. demand concerns against China's pledge to support economic growth, tighter Russia supply, and declining U.S. Inventories. You see Brent edged down by 1 cent to $79.62 a barrel, while U.S. WTI crude fell about 15 cents to $75.60 per barrel. That's losing that $80 level for Brent. Economists are still concerned that U.S. inflation might not come down quickly enough, even with rate hikes. That's according to a Reuters poll, and said that core inflation, which strips out food and energy prices, will be only slightly lower or remain around the current level of just under 5% by the end of the year. And to the grains market now, Chicago soybean and corn futures gained more ground today with forecasts of dry weather in the U.S. Midwest, and that's actually supporting prices. We see wheat rose for a second session as Russian airstrikes damaged infrastructure at the Black Sea port of Odessa a day after Moscow quit the export deal that facilitated Ukraine's crop shipments. The most active soybean contracts on the Chicago Board of Trade, SV1, added 0.3% to $13.99 for a quarter of a bushel, and corn CV1 gained 1.4% at $5.41 for three-quarter of a bushel. Wheat WV1, that rose 1.2% to $6.78 for half a bushel. The market's worried about the potential for warmer, drier weather to trim yields in late July and in August, which are critical months for soybean and corn development. And it's a turning point in Nigeria as the administration of President Bola Tinubu introduces and in some cases adjusts economic policies to suit the peculiarities of Nigeria. This is the message on which AfriInvest built its half-year investment meeting, which was held in Lagos, southwest Nigeria. The group managing director of AfriInvest, Mr. Ike Chioke, believes the macroeconomic factors signals that the investing public need to pay more attention to these factors, which can impact their revenue. Take a listen.
We've seen some, factors in the global economy as well as in the domestic economy that lead us to want to inform the investing public and our clients that they need to be a bit more vigilant how to manage their investments. We've seen global inflation rates are dropping. It dropped quite alarmingly over the last 6-7 months. We've seen that the rate tightening by global central banks have kind of come to a point where they are pulling back. They've achieved their objective of reining in inflation. Closer to home, you see Nigeria, with the advent of the new government, President Tinubu, he's unified the foreign exchange rates. That has implications for the economy. But obviously, the Naira has devalued quite significantly, about 40%. But that's beneficial if you're someone that's on the domestic side. For state government, they should see a 40% improvement in their FAC accounts. At the same time, by removing the full subsidy, we estimate that the government will save about 2 trillion just from the subsidy removal alone, and by this year. And by unifying the AFEX regime, you see something like about 350 billion naira reduction just from the debt service environment. So those are positive factors. But when you come back to the issue of inflation, you've obviously by removing the first subsidy, there's additional inflationary pressure. So Nigerians are having to pay more, about 2 to 3 times more for petrol, depending on where they are living. So that's an impact on inflation. There's still yet one more subsidy element that the government needs to tackle, and that's the electricity subsidy. And we see that coming out this year could even further push inflation from 23% up to 24% towards the end of the third quarter of the year, before we can then see inflation being reined in under control. But most of this will depend on the policy direction of the new government. They're here to come out with their list of ministers. And once the cabinet is in place, they will then kind of articulate their own policy, the way they want to move forward, and how they need to use some of these savings to impact on the lot of Nigerians, particularly very poor Nigerians. But all of this money should not be spent on palliatives, because as you know, a palliative is not a permanent solution. It just like rubbing mentholatum on a wound. You need to actually get to fix the root causes, and some of the root causes lie in, the poor quality of infrastructure we have for business, massive insecurity across the country, and of course, continuous focus on human capital development.
And now to our first conversation, where we see PMS prices are up again, and motorists have confirmed pump price of PMS currently at about 614 naira per litre in Abuja and about 617 naira per litre in Lagos. Seeing PMS prices skyrocket after the Tinubu government ended subsidy payments on PMS importation. Let's talk to Mr. Olumide Adeosun, now chairman of Major Oil Marketers Association of Nigeria. Moment, joining me via Zoom. Great to have you on the show. Good morning.
Good morning, Laddie. A pleasure to be on your show this morning.
Great to have you, Mr. Adeosun. I don't know if I can ever fill my tank up again with these new prices. How much of this change in petrol price is connected to change in global oil prices and the AFEX unification policy?
Laddie, I'm really hoping that by the time we get into a more stable framework, you will be able to fill your tank.
I hope
quite
so.
Comfortable.
Yeah.
But the real issue we have is not for people that have cars. It's really around getting Nigerians who do not have access to these sort of luxuries to still be able to survive in this economy. A large part of the costs really are attributable to two things. Well, two major ones. One is the international price, the international benchmark price for petrol, FOB Rotterdam, which has been fairly stable over the last 2 months. But the big component that we're seeing that's really impacting the cost, which is translating into the Nigerian pump price, is really the FX rate. We have seen that number go from about 630 at the point at which this new administration took over, and when the unification of the FX rates happened, to about 830, 835 today, which is a 200 naira increase, and that is seriously translating adversely, dare I say, into the price of petrol.
And definitely, it's quite sad, having to burn this expensive petrol to actually power your houses at this time. It's like a double whammy, right now. Can we expect, prices to, stabilize anytime soon?
Yeah, so it's interesting you say stabilize. So a couple of things have happened that allowed us to actually get to price discovery. You'll recall that at the point at which the subsidy was announced, and a few days after that, we started seeing prices of about 488 in Lagos for at the pumps. What happened there was that we had to make some assumptions around how the market leader NNPC arrived at those prices. What has happened in the last 2 days, really fairly thanks in part to the good work that the authority has done in terms of really opening up the market to allow players such as Prudent Energy and Services Limited take on the risk at their own cost of bringing product into the country so that we fully test the deregulation. Well, what that allowed us to do is that it allowed us to actually discover the true price of PMS, which is that it's really more of a 500 number than the 488 that had been the norm across the largest player in the market. Which then leads to some issues that we need to kind of address around how we communicate with Nigerians in terms of managing their expectations around this deregulation process, which, as you know, it's not a big bang event, but it's rather something that we have to manage over the course of time.
And, for the first time since subsidy was removed, all marketers in Nigeria have begun the first shipment. And you did, mention that. But looking at the situation now, how is that, going to help, going forward?
What has happened now is that we are slowly seeing a shift from a sole importer into one where Nigerian companies are able to go out there, use their credit limits, their wherewithal to import products. Again, like I said, three companies have successfully done that today, as advised by the authority. Prudent Intelligence Services Limited, I think Emadeb, and I also believe Shafa have also done the same thing. What that means is that we're going to start to see more flow into the country. With more flow means that we'll start to see some competitive pricing at the pumps, which surely benefits Nigerians. And that's really what we wanted to do. To really have this happen in a transparent and open way, we need to make sure that every party at the table, NNPCL included, are playing from a level position, which means that one does not have unfair access to any of the triggers, either access to Platts price, which is out of our control, or to AFEX, which is potentially within our control, so that what the consumers are able to get is the best possible price based on healthy competition and an abundance of product. And it's not just a PMS story, an abundance of PMS. But also one of the bad side effects of this impact is that people now have choices, auto gas, EVs, and these are options that are being explored properly. But whatever we do, we need to make sure that there is a concerted effort by government, federal, state, to really do their bit in terms of trying to make sure that the people who are neediest get the right sort of support. So transport subsidy at the point of need, making sure that their states are sufficiently resourced so that people do not feel like they have to leave their home state to go to Lagos, Abuja, or Port Harcourt to seek their fortune. We are very much an agro-processing zone. We are very rich in other resources other than oil, and it's really important that people are able to feel like there's more to life than PMS, and that we can also expect some wealth. Expect to make a living by other sources as well.
And now that marketers can import PMS, is there any risk to the quality of PMS coming into the country? Any risk at all?
Yes, I mean, I think that risk is always there where you have hydrocarbons that are dependent on specifications. I mean, we had a methanol incident just over a year ago when we had a single importer of product. That will always be a clear and present risk. And again, that presents an opportunity for the authority to really exert their authority around regulating quality. Now, from an operator's point of view, there is no value or no merit in providing substandard fuel, because people will mark your stations and they will not come back. They'll vote with their tires and their wheels if you provide poor quality products. So on the one hand, we have regulations to provide it, and on the other hand, we also have the operators making sure that they are providing the best quality products to consumers. But the risk remains there nonetheless. And it's a quality of enforcement and sanction that will really be the active deterrent in that particular area.
And with Dangote's refinery coming online soon, is there any chance that will reduce or impact in PMS importation into the country?
Every refinery project that produces PMS or even diesel really allows us to domesticate the production of this process, and that can only be good for the economy because it means that we're not spending FX. I think when the Dangote refinery comes on stream, we still don't have full line of sight to it, but we've heard some encouraging news. We will probably go through another price discovery process, but it's absolutely critical that people's expectations are managed and we don't overpromise on what the Dangote refinery or anything else will do in terms of the price of product at the pumps. It's absolutely important because given where we are today, the international market will drive the prices up, but it also drive the prices down. And for operators to stay competitive, they will have to make sure that their pricing moves with the tide and provides the best possible value to customers.
Right. I'm definitely looking forward to price discovery to the downside at some point, hopefully.
We all are.
Yeah,
Right.
thank you. Thank you so much, Mr. Olumide Adeosun, Chairman, Major Oil Marketers Association of Nigeria. Thank you.
Thank you very much for your time.
All right, after the break, we get perspective of legislature on Nigeria's debt servicing and cost of living crisis. That's our next conversation. Just stay with us. And a budget performance report prepared by the Office of the Accountant General of the Federation and the Budget Office shows Nigeria's debt service to revenue ratio is about 99.2%. The data show that of the 4.26 trillion naira total revenue available for financing in the 2022 budget and the first 3 quarters of last year, a sum of 4.23 trillion naira went into debt financing. Well, joining me now is Honorable Philip, who is a member House of Representatives, joining me from our Abuja studio. Great to have you in the show. Good morning.
Good morning. How are you, sir?
I'm fine, thank you. So I will see the president's request to extract 500 billion naira from the 2022 Supplementary Appropriation Act to provide, palliatives aimed at cushioning the effect of, fuel subsidy removal and, reducing the pressure on consumers. But that has been reviewed now. What's your take on this revision on the 8,000 naira that's supposed to be shared to the vulnerable?
Yes, the earlier request, the National Assembly vis-a-vis the House of Representatives was actually the first to articulate the need for palliatives to be provided. We did that under our leader, the Right Honorable Tajuddin Abbas, who is the Speaker, and the executive promptly responded to it by sending the supplementary budget to us. We again carrying out both our representative function and our lawmaking function. We met and we deliberated on the request by Mr. President, and the approval was given for the 500 billion naira to be used for the purpose of cushioning the effect of the fuel subsidy removal. We have all accepted before now that yes, the removal of fuel subsidy is not going to leave us with initial pains. However, Nigerians are ready to pay the full price so that we can enjoy our resources that God has given to us.
And tell me about this amendment now. Why was it amended? What was the approval so fast? Did the National Assembly evaluate, this amendment critically?
Yes, because across the 360 federal constituency in this country, there's virtually no place that is left out of the sufferings and yearnings of the people. The inflation is biting hard on everybody. Every single Nigeria is being affected as a result of the fuel subsidy removal policy. And for a responsible house under the leadership of the Right Honorable Tajuddin Abbas, we took an oath to protect and project and promote the interests of the Nigerian masses, to represent them. And we are here to do exactly that. It is too early for anybody to renege on his campaign promises. We want a better living condition for the Nigerian masses. We are here to serve our people. We are here to serve the interests of every single citizen of this country, including those who have been benefiting from the fuel subsidy regime. And we, in our wisdom as a house, we decided to say, yes, what Mr. President has requested for is very apt, is very correct. Nigerians have been commending him. Even in the House of Representatives, we did that too. And we didn't just stop there. We made some recommendations on how the money should be spent. And we agreed that as part of our oversight function, a special committee will be set up by the House to monitor the disbursement of the fund, the utilization of the fund, to ensure that the last kobo from that 500 billion naira gets to the last Nigerian citizen that the money is meant for. And again, we also agreed that we made suggestions to Mr. President on the dear areas that should be given immediate attention, so that Nigerians, will not feel the pains of the subsidy removal as it is at the moment.
Yeah, it's definitely really painful right now. The consumer is squeezed on every side. But can you just paint a picture of some of the recommendations and suggestions that the House has made to the President?
Yes, before now, we've taken a couple of motions, discussing the issue of palliatives, urging the federal government to provide palliatives to intervene because our constituents are suffering across the country. One of those interventions recommended by the 10th House of Representatives under the leadership of our amiable Speaker, the Right Honorable Tajuddin Abbas. One is to find a way to provide buses to help in reducing the cost of transportation of goods and services from one locality to another. Part of the quick wins, we equally recommended as part of our parliamentary duties that some of the roads across the countries, should be given immediate and urgent attention so that as you're also buying fuel at a very high rate, the roads are also good because the situation of Nigerian roads today is such that it takes more than 3-4 hours for a journey that should ordinarily take less than 20 minutes to be carried out. And the colleagues in the House have identified some of these areas, some of these roads that require immediate and urgent attention across the country. If you've been following our debates in the House, you've seen us talk about roads in Enugu, roads in Benue, Katsina, and every part of the country to ensure that there's smooth and easy passage of goods and services from the localities where they are produced to the market. We equally discussed the issue of insecurity. Mr. President, in his wisdom, has appointed new service chiefs. They've been confirmed by both houses of the National Assembly. So we're looking forward to better security situation across the country. We're encouraging the new service chiefs, particularly the Chief of Defense Staff, the Chief of Army Staff, and all of them, including the new NSA, that they will do something, practically to make Nigerian citizens feel safer so that our farmers will be able to return to their farms, produce what they can, and then all of us will work together. We'll continue to take feedback from the people if these 3-4 recommendations are met to see what next. And as a House, our processes are ongoing. We'll continue to sit, continue to discuss with our people back to see what they want, because our functions are 3. Representative function, which of course we discuss directly with our people back in our various communities, and we bring them to the floor of the House. Of course, we sit down, we make new laws, and then we oversight. So this new leadership under Right Honorable Tajuddin Abbas, by the special grace of God, we are going to make sure that these 3 cardinal objectives of the House, we meet them, we surpass the expectation of the average Nigerian. And by God's grace, I think things will get to normal as soon as possible.
We do need things back to normal as soon as possible. Still looking at that oversight, function of the House. How's the House going to see to it that vulnerable Nigerians are supported at this time? That it actually reaches the the right people. Not that a few that are better off still enjoy the benefits, and the vulnerable are still left alone.
Yes, one, the idea to remove fuel subsidy is to make sure that, yes, is to make sure that we transit from that regime in the past where, a certain cabal sit on the commonwealth of an entire nation of over 240 million persons. And these things are, shared by them and put into private pockets at the detriment of the suffering masses. If you looked at what happened on February 25th, 2023, when this new set of legislators were voted into power, it was a clear expression of the yearnings of the Nigerian masses, in the sense that democracy was at work. The various federal constituencies went out despite the situation of things of the economy at that time as a result of a cash crunch, lack of fuel across the country. People indeed voted for people that they wanted to represent them. And then what we do in the House today is to aggregate the views of the over 360 federal constituency in a country, put them together, put the various opinions of the people into debate. We discuss it, and we come up with recommendations and solutions, that are in tandem. That's why during our debates, you see proposals in the prayers and amendments to the prayer. That is to say that what the member from Karana Mother is feeling can actually be either spiced or rejected or approved by another member from Ishalangwa or by another member from Badagry. And that is what a house means. So what we do basically as a house is to make sure that the collective interest of the Nigerian masses is well protected to the extent that they are happy and everybody is happy and the people are happy that they have voted us. And as a matter of fact, the 10th National Assembly, particularly the House of Representatives, we are doing everything under the leadership of our Speaker to make sure that truly we make the difference, and the Nigerian masses at the end of the day have every reason, in another time again, to vote for the kind of people that they have voted today as their representatives in the House.
All right. Looking at, cutting costs of governance is dominating conversations right now. We've seen the likes of Senator, Benga Daniel asking the state government to stop his pensions, as a former governor. Consumers are having to sacrifice a lot to absorb the price increases, right now with sky-high inflation. What do you think should be done to reduce the cost of governance in Nigeria?
Yes, we have looked at the supplementary budget, the 2022 Appropriation Act. The 2023 is still in force. We'll be looking at that in the 2024 budget when it is when the executive presents it to the House. I am very sure I have full confidence in my colleagues. I've seen the caliber of people voted into office to represent the various federal constituencies at this point. And as a matter of fact, in the last few days, we've seen Nigerians talk about a certain 70 billion naira allocated to the National Assembly. And I want to use this opportunity to appeal to them and to make clarifications that money, the 70 billion naira, is neither for the senators, neither is it for members of the House of Representatives. It is actually the running cost, for the National Assembly. And a large chunk of that money will be going into provision of office, accommodation for the members who will be sitting. And in some instances too, we talked about the issue of vehicles for senators and members of the House of Representatives, which I believe it is very important. But if at any point in time Nigerians consider that it is not okay by them for members of the National Assembly to be entitled to any form of vehicular movement, we don't mind. I think under the leadership of Right Honorable Tajuddin Abbas and even our Senate President, senators are ready to go by way of camels, donkeys, and even bicycles if they are available. We are ready to make all the sacrifices, on a very serious note. We are ready to make every sacrifice to ensure that the masses are happy. And that is exactly why Mr. Speaker has encouraged us that the 10th Assembly, we are going to improve and improve on our oversight functions to ensure that there will be no leakages, because most of these leakages are not even around the legislature. The leakages exist in the executive. We don't have the luxury of resources as far as the National Assembly is concerned to play with funds. So the agencies, the departments of government who receive this appropriation when we carry them out are the ones who will be talking to, will be engaging them to make sure that they cut down on the cost of managing the administration, to equally ensure that Nigerians are happy and part of these resources are plunged into the economy. Resources go into the building of schools. The 10th House of Representatives at the moment, we are discussing with the Tertiary Education Fund to see how taxpayers' money, accruing to the fund is being utilized. And we're equally looking at the people that TED Fund has given the money to. So we are going to spring up some of these investigations, some of this legislative pally with members of the executive to ensure that, yes, people who are saddled with the responsibility deliver on these responsibilities to the best of their capacity and even in tandem with existing laws in the country.
And I'm sure with, so many people right now struggling to actually feed, at this time, they would like to see some kind of, camaraderie from the government, some kind of trimming, when it comes to, some of the monies the government actually gets at this time. We would like to see that. What kind of conversations, are being had to, show us, some kind of, empathy and say that, what, we are cutting down on this. We're cutting down on spending on maybe cars and all of those excesses to be able to help Nigerians feed.
We are just coming on board. So it is the National Assembly Service Commission that determines most of the things that get to us. But as part of our feelings as legislators, we're equally ready to make sacrifices. So we'll be looking at proposals that will be put forward to us by the National Assembly Service Commission and proposals that will also be put forward to us by the executive. With what we do, we are just entitled to 5 staff as legislators, and for many persons, for me, I have 35 wards to oversight. In this constituency, executive projects are going on. So what I would say is that we are all going to double our efforts, because what was there in the past, if we all agree that there was truly a problem and corruption was the issue, was not even the fact that not enough resources was being allocated, but the fact that what was allocated in the past was not put into proper use. And that is going to be the focus of the 10th Assembly. And I believe that with the level of transparency, accountability, and probity that we have displayed so far in the last 30 days of our sittings and meetings as a house, Nigerians are actually impressed that, yes, for the first time, this house is getting things right. And it is also to appeal to the Nigerian masses. The Nigerian legislator is actually a very vulnerable one, because since I came on board as a legislator, I haven't seen the Ghana must goals that we were fed with. And some of these bogus claims that we see on social media as part of the money being given to us, they are not actually correct.
All right.
And I understand that some of my colleagues ran the elections, based on some of these fake stories that they were fed with in the past. And today we are being faced with the reality of the house. The house is not in terms of those who want resources, those who are looking for money. The house is actually not the best of places to be in terms of service to the country.
All right.
The legislator in Nigeria is
Honorable
entitled, in very few cases, entitled to just a car.
All right, Honorable Philip, we definitely would like to see, more, coming from the government in terms of cutting cost of governance and, alleviating the pains, Nigerians are suffering, at this time. But thank you so much for coming on the show, Honorable Philip Agbese, a member of House of Representatives. Great having you. Thank you.
For having me. Grateful.
All right, we'll take a moment now. When we come back, AFEX Commodities Market Update is next. Do stay with us. All right, let's take a look at how your money performed on the AFEX exchange last week. In the last trading week, it was mixed performances across key indicators. We saw turnover that rose by 17.14%, closing the week at 6.22 billion naira from 5.31 billion naira in the last trading week. See, volume traded, that rose by 21.34%. While the number of deals traded also rose by 20.75%, closing the week at 128 points from 106. The AFEX Commodity Index rose by 1.74%, while AFEX Export Index maintained at 228.68 points. To the volume of contracts traded, volume increased across maize and paddy rice, while the price across export commodities, sesame, ginger, and wheat maintained at 1,247 naira, 989 naira, and 380 naira, respectively. Other commodities witnessed mixed performances, with sorghum rising by 3.86% and closing at 309 naira 24 kobo. Paddy rice rose by 3.04%, closing at 348 naira 99 kobo. Other commodities witnessed a decline, with cashew nut dropping by 17.64%, closing at 505 naira 24 kobo. Soybean dropped 1.75%. So if you want more, just head on to AFEX website and you follow them on social media for more details. It's afriexchange.com. All right, let's take the conversation further now. Do you sometimes wonder where exactly or what farm your products come from? Well, I do sometimes. I wonder where the carrot or yam I buy, what farm it's actually coming from. Well, to discuss this now, I have with me Kamaldeen Sumaila, Head Business Intelligence, AFEX, joining me from Abuja studio. Great to have you on the show.
Thank you very much, Ladi. Good morning.
So yeah, it'll definitely be interesting, knowing the origin, of the yam and carrot I buy on the street. Paint a picture of the importance of traceability in ensuring food security in Africa.
So, like you've already said, traceability gives you a holistic view of your commodity as it progresses through the value chain. So, what that does for food security is you're able to identify and resolve any outbreaks, contaminations, or any threats to food safety as it passes through that value chain. I'll give you an example with the COVID-19 pandemic. In the initial event, the most critical thing was to identify the origins of the pandemic, the origins of the outbreak, and its mutations. What that would have done was to be able to create targeted testing and containment measures. And at the end of the day, also be vital to be able to sort of find effective means of channeling resolutions and aid. So you need to be able to know what kind of aid to send and where exactly to send it. That's what traceability does for you. On a lighter note, though, because you're able to view quality at every stage of the value chain, you can assess you're able to build consumers' trust and essentially be able to say Africans can consume what is being produced in Africa.
And how can technology be leveraged to enhance, traceability in the agricultural sector?
So I like how you say leverage, because I see technology as a tool that helps you to scale an existing process. So how we do traceability at AFEX today is with every single bag of commodity that comes to our warehouse, you tag it with a QR code. So what that QR code contains is essentially the information of that bag. Remember, you were saying how you want to know where your yam is produced or your carrot. So we know which farm, we know which farmer produced it, we know under which conditions, when it was even harvested. What that does, that's basically how we have leveraged technology. Taking a step further would be saying creating smarter tags that can give you real-time information on the conditions of the produce within the bag and outside of it, so humidity, temperature, and then using AI models to sort of get patterns within that data and build more resilient structures and even improve the supply chain. I typically say a huge chunk of the supply chain issues can be solved with just looking at traceability information.
Right. And how can collaboration between stakeholders, that's including farmers, producers, retailers, and consumers, contribute to effectiveness of the traceability systems in ensuring, food security? Because right now with prices sky high, food security is also an issue that needs to be sorted right now.
Exactly. So collaboration is important. And for consumers, you and myself, I think you're already doing your part by asking where's my yam coming from.
Yeah, where's my yam
But
coming
we need
from?
to value transparency and demand it more. That would make sure that producers see that it is essential that they obtain that they adopt the best quality practices. And then for producers, processors alike, and even aggregators of these commodities, what's essential is that we adopt a unified system of traceability, standardized data formats and protocols. So today at AFEX, we have a very large view of the value chain because we play across most aspects of it. So we know where it's produced, where it's processed, where it's stored. But the moment it gets out of our own environment, so to speak, it's difficult to trace the journey from there. So it's essential that every single player across the value chain comes together and adopts one unified process to say, when it gets to me, how do I update the history of this produce so that the final consumer knows essentially what's happening here? And then you can easily resolve or identify any issues and treat them at the source, which is very important.
Now, how does traceability, system help improve market access for, African farmers and boost their agricultural exports?
Okay, so back to my first example, which is that you are building trust with traceability. You have a system where people can easily validate the information. So with that trust, it means that, first of all, in Africa, Africans will be able to consume what is being produced in Africa because they are sure that it has gone through the right procedures. And then when you get to the international markets where the rules and regulations around importing commodities or crossing the border with commodities are more stringent, with traceability and that verifiable information and the trust you've already built in your home market, you're able to sort of validate and show evidence that I have done the right things and I've met the standards that require me to play in your own market. So essentially, traceability is really solving a huge problem for the African farmer by creating that market access. So that verifiable information is very, very important.
Right, and I guess some farmers can build trust for their brands going forward. Thank you so much. That was Kamaldeen Smiley, Head Business Intelligence at AFEX. Thank you.
Thank you, Ladi.
All right, we'll take a moment now. And from one market, we head to another market. Now we have Will Ebonga with the details. Now tell us what happened in the local bourse and what's happening in fixed income market. Great to have you.
Oh,
Will.
Ladi, thanks. Good morning.
Morning.
We're kicking off with the market liquidity, system liquidity. We saw that in the previous session, that was yesterday, we saw market liquidity starting over at 513 billion naira. And, looking at that report from the central bank where we see the surge in money supply over 64 trillion naira in the system in June, that's really a big spike. And so we see these monies in the bank sitting there, and then we're seeing lower rates for trading and any other transactions that they have. But we're just going to go ahead and analysts will give us more insights into that. So we did see that increase, which was 83.21 billion naira from the previous day's levels. And analysts expect that rates will further increase today as banks fund for the bond auction settlement. Now, the bond markets opened on a very relatively quiet note yesterday. We saw trading progressed. We saw markets improving on offers for the 2038 and the 2053 papers. And it was consummated around the 14.1% and 14.3% auction stop rates that we had on Monday. Now, by the close of trading, only a handful of trades were consummated, and as such, yields remained relatively unchanged from the opening levels. Now, we expect quiet trading session today as banks, as I said earlier, fund for the bond auction settlement. And looking at the Treasury bills market, we did see a market bearish sentiment. I mean, yields are going up in that segment, persisting in the market as market participants also continue to offer bills on the long end of the NCB curve. Now, average yield closed around the 6% handle today, and analysts do expect that trend to persist as market players continue to trade with caution. Now, we have Ajibola Aero Phillips, is chief dealer, fixed income at FBN Quest Merchant Bank, to give us more insights as to what's going on in the market. Good morning, Ajibola. It's good to have you on the show. Can you hear me, Ajibola?
Hello, Will.
Hi, it's good to have you. Ajibola, we're just going to kick off with the money supply, and that's money in circulation, climbing above 64 trillion naira in June, the highest level ever recorded in the country, and that's according to the latest report from the CBN. Now, economic analysts have raised concerns that this could further drive inflation higher and also reduce the purchasing power of Nigerians. But how does this impact the fixed income market?
Thank you for having me. Just like you are aware, there was a bond auction a couple of days ago, I think on Monday, with the DMO selling over 600 billion. We saw huge subscription levels, especially on the long end, where the subscription was about 600 billion. With respect to the money supply and inflation, as a couple of people continue to stress that the inflation is more supply side driven, insecurity and all of those things, which is leading to increase in food prices. So we're not sure. There's an MPC going, scheduled to very soon. We're not sure. A whole lot of people expect that there'll be a hold on interest rate hike, and there may be other means in terms of trying to control supply, maybe a few CRR debits, and things like that, just to mop up small liquidity in the market. But again, if you go by what the president continued to say, they want lower interest rates, right? So this is feeding into all of that. But of course, the MPC, on the other hand, would have an eye on that inflation and trying to rein it in. But I don't think we're going to see, some of the traditional things that we've been used to, such as interest rate hike or MPR rate hike or any of those things. So expect them to go maybe a bit unconventional in terms of trying to rein that in.
Okay. Now, still on supply, the CBN has delisted over 2,600 bureau de change in the space of 1 year. And there are suggestions by Policy Advisory Council that the CBN allow banks to operate as the primary dealers to supply Forex. Do you think the banks have enough supply of FX to meet the demand?
As of now, of course not. Because of the huge demand that we have in the market generally from the various sectors, airlines, importers, and the rest of them. So we need to open up a bit of supply chains that we've been typically used to. I'm sure you must have been inundated with some of the reports that you've seen with respect to IOC sales. If that comes back to the market, of course, that's going to help the banks. But right now, there's not much coming in terms of supply besides what you have with exporters and local and corporate. So as things begin to get better, I expect that there will be some few supplies that would help, mostly maybe some, based on what our economic conditions look like, if we continue to improve, maybe some of these reforms that, going on, FX reforms and all of that would encourage some FPI. I know everybody doesn't want to hear about FPI because of the hot money, but the truth is that helps in terms of liquidity of any economy, just because they're chasing yields. And as long as our economic conditions and indicators are, improving, and then market conditions are improving as well, expect that supply to come in. And then if that happens, of course, the banks can now go back to being primary suppliers of FX. But, if we don't see all of those typical supply sources that we've been used to, back in the days, it's pretty much going to be very hard for the banks to be the primary dealers. With respect to the BDCs, I think if you read some of the policy documents, that's 5-year or 8-year plan by the president, it was listed there. Maybe this is a prelude to them, trying to get them to recapitalize, to get them strong and be able to, supply the FX market, and support the FX markets as in terms of sales, in terms of, purchases and things like that, for legitimate transactions. So maybe that's a prelude to all of that with respect to the delisting.
Thank you so much, Ajibola Aero Phillips, Chief Dealer, Fixed Income, FBN Quest Merchant Bank, for sharing your perspective on the program.
Thank you for having me.
So did see that bullish run for the equities market on Monday. On Tuesday, and we expect that to continue today, Wednesday, because Monday and Tuesday, bullish sentiments. We expect Wednesday to also close.
That's if the profit takers don't come. All right.
No, the profit takers will not come.
All right. Thank you so much. Well, let's head on to the UK now. We got that data, fresh data from the UK this morning. Great to have you, Juliana. So we see UK inflation rate slide to 7.9% in June, below expectations. That's a good one.
This is good. Very, very good news, Laddie. Good morning. Good news for Chancellor Jeremy Hunt and Prime Minister Rishi Sunak, who, of course, have made it their mission to try and halve inflation from some of the 40-year highs we saw at the beginning of the year when it was at double digits to some single digits, or perhaps the EU average, which is 5.5%. We're not there yet, but as you said, we have had data from the Office for National Statistics showing that inflation has slowed to 7.9% in the month of June. You'd have to go back to March 2022 to see CPI that low. No surprises, this has come off the back of slowing fuel prices. I know it's complete opposite of what's happening in Nigeria, but in the UK, fuel prices are coming down. We're also seeing energy prices coming down from the peaks at the beginning of the war in Ukraine. So this is great. Again, I think it was Monday, Laddie, I was speaking to you about grocery inflation as well, which has also dipped. So perhaps there will be less pressure for the Bank of England and its governor, Andrew Bailey, when they meet early next month to talk about interest rates. We know they're very, very high, 5%. They're doing it to try and combat inflation. But of course, it is negatively affecting small minority of this country, those who've got really big loans, particularly those who've got massive mortgage loans or car loans. They are really seeing that with the cost of borrowing much higher, that their monthly payments are increasing at a pretty alarming rate. So perhaps, this could be the end of the worst that we've seen when it comes to inflation rates. And rather than that 50 basis point hike that economists had forecast, we could see something like 5.25% interest rate decision when the MPC meet at Threadneedle in August.
Right, all eyes on the MPC at this time. Thank you so much, and I'll get more updates later on Business Incorporated. Thank you. All right, now let's head on to other markets now. See the market for Bitcoin there, 50 points neutral from greed yesterday, showing that traders are neither hot nor cold at this point. Let's look at the top cryptocurrencies we track. We'll see Bitcoin there trading at that 30,000 level, still holding that level, psychological point there, 0.12% up. Ethereum, $1,911, up 0.33%. The big mover this morning, XRP, up again, 6.30%. Let's bring in Rume Ofi now, financial market analyst. Hello, Rume, good morning.
Morning, Adi. Good morning.
Great to have you. Great to have you, Rume. Yeah. So more data this morning. Blockchain Analytics, a company into the block, indicates that approximately 29% of the total Bitcoin supply, which has remained stagnant for about 5 years, might be lost forever. Why is that?
Yes, a lot of people in this industry don't understand that there are certain things that you need to do, some very prerequisites that you need to do coming into the industry. You have to take certain things very serious. What I mean, having to own your own private keys, that is more like the key for your car. You can't give somebody when you go out, even though you're feeling set in a certain way. So it also applies for in this Bitcoin space. Right. So if you're having a wallet for the first time, right, there are certain prerequisites, some security measures you need to take. Also, you need to also own your private keys. You have to keep your private key. Either you're using a hardware wallet that is an offline, or you're using a hot wallet. You need to have all of that. If you don't have all of that, we see a lot of people jumping into this industry these days, and they end up not doing all of that, not saving their seed phrase, which is a private key to assess where their asset is being saved. In most cases, for the Bitcoin blockchain, they lose it because when they lose the wallet, they find it difficult to recall their wallet or to get their digital asset. All of these has actually made all of these Bitcoin to be lost. So if you're coming to this space, you have to be responsible. One of the difficulty, so to say, I say the beauty is that you are responsible for your action in this space, and it makes a whole lot of sense that you are responsible. If you lost it, if you don't save it, it is gone, and it's gone forever.
Yeah, definitely not easy being your own bank. And I wonder, with all of that Bitcoin loss, that makes Bitcoin even more rare at this point. Thank you so much, Rume Ofi, financial market analyst. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Ladi. My pleasure.
All right. So, yeah, that's how the market is looking. If we look at top gainers now, topping that counter, we see XLM normally follows XRP, is up 8.85%, topping the gainers on the top 100 coins on coin market cap. So that's how the market is looking today. It's neutral right there in the crypto market. And that's a wrap on the program. Thank you for joining us. Don't forget to join us at 1:30 for Business Incorporated for more updates and developments in the world of business. Thank you for watching. I'm Ladi Williams. Have a profitable day.